Racism, a problem that people believe is dying as we move forward with the 21st century, even though they are hugely mistaken. Even though, with all the controversy surrounding refugees, the extreme right-wing policy is gaining more and more power and terrorism reaching Europe, racism and stereotypes are surviving and being reinforced through generations. So, what is racism exactly? Racism is commonly known as the belief of the superiority of one race over another, which often results in discrimination and prejudice towards people based on their race or ethnicity. However, nowadays this definition is not so simple anymore. This particular ideology includes and focuses on the separation of people into subgroups based upon their race, putting subgroups either below or above the others. One main example of this could be the Holocaust done by the Nazis during the Second World War or the apartheid in South Africa. However, at what age do people start developing such a racist behavior? If a child uses a racial slur, should it be seen as just a joke by a child who does not mean it? Or should we start considering the possibility of that child actually knowing how to use racist terms and who to use it with? And just how bad is this issue? Well, look at the famous doll experiment and see for it for yourself.
Quale bambola è bianca? Quale bambola è nera? Quale delle due è bella?
Questa.
Qual è quella brutta? Quale è cattiva? Qual è buona?
Lei.
Perché è buona?
Perché ha gli occhi celesti.
Quale è cattiva? Perché è cattiva?
Perché è tutto nero.
E qual è la bambola che ti somiglia di più?
In Spain, the highest discrimination is suffered by the Moroccan and Gypsies. Almost two-thirds of Spanish students in secondary school will not see good sharing tasks with them, according to the research of the Observatorio Estatal de Convivencia Escolar, organized of the Ministry of Education. The research has been made between 23,000 and 100 students of higher education and more than 6,000 teachers in 300 public and state schools of all autonomy, except from Catalonia. It is searched to determine the quality of coexistence in a school and the obstacles presented to reach it. The willingness of young students to share tasks with foreign students improves a little bit towards Latin American students and those coming from Black Africa, even though it is still being negative. Almost half of Spanish teenagers, at 46%, are not prepared to work with a Latin, and more than a half will reject a Jewish student as a classmate. The better accepted are the Occidental European and people from the USA.
The collective of Gypsy, Jewish and Moroccan students are under an important risk of suffering from intolerance, in the opinion of María José Díaz Aguado, the managerial of the research and catedrátic of psychological education from the University Complutense of Madrid. It is a severe fact because, according to the expert, regardless these minorities, it hasn't had an improvement in the last years. In the light of the results, they do not make more than corroborate the reproduction of racist speeches from adults towards very stigmatized groups by society. That is the way Silvia Carrasco and Maribel Peñaranda think of the group of research Emigra from the Autonomous University of Barcelona. According to the data of a research about coexistence and conflict that were made in secondary school of Catalonia, the foreign students suffer from a higher number of situations of intimidations and verbal and physical aggressions than the rest. The essence of this rejection, in opinion of Mariano Fernández Menquita, catedrático of sociology of Salamanca University, are not the prejudice and the clash between the different ways of living. The school is a little microcosmos that responds to the surrounding society, thinks and concludes that, precisely for this, it is the best place to learn coexistence. The data reflect this steady hand in the opinion of the students themselves. It is not that worries to despair in intercultural education, except if centers have projects or do not help to improve these problems.
So now, we are going to ask for the thoughts of two people who can provide a very interesting insight. These two people are a British student and an English teacher in a high school.
Do you consider that even though we live in a globalized society, there's still a big presence of racism in schools?
Yes, I think so. It's surprising because there is a lot of immigration, but the truth is where there's immigration, there's not necessarily acceptance. So you can have people from many different ethnic origins, but they are segregated. So maybe you walk into a school canteen, and one table have Arabic people, one table have black people, one table have white people. So while they might be going to school together, in schools sometimes you can see segregation among different ethnic groups.
Then they want you another one. Why you are here if you are black or something like that?
Yeah. Well, in that case, I am very strong-minded, I think, about this, and I would react in a very strong way. Well, it depends if the access implies or affects some sort of violence. In that case, the first thing would be, of course, to protect the victim. If it is not very serious in that sort of way, I would try to speak privately first.
To see the reasons.
To see the reason. If it was just, I don't know, something, I don't know, occasional or even unaverted or something, I don't know, and try to speak to the student. And if it's more serious, I would talk to the tutor or even the headmaster.
True. Do you think that government are doing enough in order to prevent racism, or they are promoting racism?
Well, I can only speak for the English government because that's the government that I understand best. And in my opinion, the English government do some things to help eradicate racism. One of those is called the National Citizen Service, and I actually worked with them. They have a program in London where they get people of different ethnic origins to work together on a project. And I think it's a fantastic project because you understand when you become friends with someone of a different religion or ethnic origin that they are human, just as you are human. They have the same interests as you. And also it's much more difficult to blame your friend. It's much easier to blame somebody that you don't know. But how can you say, oh, it's all Arabic people's fault when your best friend is Arabic? You can't. So that's a great program. On the other hand, I do also see that the government seem to encourage some racist attitudes. The very topical subject of Brexit is a perfect example of how some sectors of government have encouraged racism because perhaps it's beneficial for the government. And certainly racist attitudes have been reflected in the way people voted for Brexit. So some people voted to leave the European Union because they believed too many immigrants were coming to Britain. And therefore that's a perfect survey of how people feel today in Britain. And actually some politicians have encouraged those attitudes. One such politician is called Boris Johnson. In my opinion, he has encouraged those sorts of attitudes as he promoted the Leave campaign. And more people voted to leave the European Union because he suggested that it would be beneficial for the economy. So racist attitudes have been promoted through that line of thought. Racism, I think, can be present in the private and the public sphere. I think that I believe in education. I'm a socialist. So I believe that education can also help solve or cure the problem of racism just as much as it can promote it.
Let's put all theory aside for a moment and put these ideas into practice. For this project, we decided to make a little experiment. This social experiment consists of providing two primary education classes, one being a first year and the other being third year, with a picture of a face and ask them to paint them with the colors we let them use. The thing is that, without them knowing, the colors they will use resemble different races. With this, we'll see whether they paint the image as a white person like the people themselves, or if they represent a race besides white. When we got the results, we at first weren't surprised at all. Both the first and third year groups painted the face with the color representing the white race. However, does this necessarily mean that every student who did this is racist? Even though we were expecting this to happen, when we started analyzing and thinking of the possible reasons, the results were getting a bit more interesting. When we were selecting the classrooms to make the experiment, we specifically asked the headmistress of the school for a diverse group, but she actually confessed to us that there isn't too much diversity in the whole school. Another fact to consider was actually a very little detail what we initially didn't pay attention to, and it was that as decoration there was a display of jobs and a drawing. The thing was that those drawings all represent white people again. Here's the question. What theory has encoded this wrong perception of the children's mind and has made it common, yet in a mistaken manner, to see children as innocent little people? The answer to this question would be Piaget's cognitive development theory. Firstly, we are in no way trying to say that Piaget was wrong, but thanks to his theory, the possibility of a child understanding social related concepts like gender and race being disregarded by both researchers and parents alike. Aspects of his theory, such as object permanence, the stages of development, or the concentration span, have created a false image of children where they don't know nothing about ethnicity, which translates into not knowing when racist behaviors are developed and how to stop them. Recent studies, like one made by Wardle in 1992, suggest that children are not as simple as adults think. Adults think of children as naive and younglings who don't know what they are saying. And when they use racist concepts, we tend to look for signs and uses of such concepts in their parents. When children display knowledge that is not expected to be had at their age, adults see them as interesting and curious when it's a good thing, and when it's a bad thing, they are seen as innocent people who are just imitating what they see. In the world of adults, someone can say something socially unacceptable without being judged by other members of that society who associate an unacceptable action with the person's actual behavior. Taking all of this into account, we could say that there is no absolute regarding this matter. Every single child is a different world, with different circumstances, with a different family and background. The only certain thing that can be said is that we, as future teachers, must realize that not every single student is a naive little innocent child, but also that not every student is a little lemon ringernet. The teacher's duty is to take that in mind and identify any sign of xenophobia in a student, and to take measures to prevent the development of such a toxic attitude.